Okay, so can you start by telling us who you are?
Yep, my name is Dylan. Dylan Ho Sian Zheng is my full name, and I am a junior in Yale-NUS College. That means year 3, the class of 2017. I am 23, which means I was born in 1992. And I'm part of round 0, which means that I was admitted to Yale-NUS in 2012.
So I'm going to start by asking you a few questions about demographics and background. So could you tell me which schools you went to and what kind of schools they were?
Yep. So my primary school was St. Michael's School. Now it's known as St. Joseph Junior Institution, whatever. My secondary JC school was NUS High School of Mathematics and Science. It's a mouthful, but based on the name, you can tell it's a really nerdy school, and we spent a lot of time doing math and science. Not so much time doing English, writing, social studies, history, geography. Very little of that, and we spent like all our time doing math and science.
So, what kind of school was that? Was it like considered a good school in Singapore?
Okay. So now in 2015, the big schools are still RJ and Hwa Chong, I guess. Is it wrong to say that? Anyways, but NUS High was new. In fact, it's only 10 years old now. Yeah, it's exactly 10 years old this year. And so it's new, but I thought it was a really good school. It was very nerdy and very, very, very different kind of school from Yale-NUS.
Okay. What were your core subjects in high school?
So definitely, obviously, the sciences, I already mentioned that. But I had a focus in physics and biology and math. So for those of you counting, chemistry, okay, not so much focus, but I did a lot of chemistry as well.
Okay, and how well did you do in school?
Oh, I did very well. Above average is the thing. So one of the funny things about Yale-NUS is that we attract a lot of arts, humanities, global affairs, social science kind of people. And over here, a lot of people say that I'm the technical term is God at science. Yes, technical term. But well, I really don't see it that way. I was really above average in NUS High, and just so show about the level of science standard here. It's not MIT level. We do not steal people from MIT and from the Yale-NUS. We get people like me.
Okay, so your schoolmates from NUS High, your good friends, like where did they go to study?
Okay, so NUS High is a really good school. It's not like generally, like not everyone thinks it is, but we really go to very good schools, but very technical ones. So like, I have from my batch, which I know the best, I have a friend in Stanford, MIT, Oxford, UC Berkeley, there's quite a few. And of course, one thing to note is that all the girls actually graduate from high school 2 years earlier. So they actually start university 2 years earlier and end 2 years earlier. So I guess to round it off, I have friends in a lot of the good Ivy League and great schools, US, Europe, everywhere. And in fact, one of my friends is working at Google right now, so it's pretty badass.
That's great. Okay, so about your own background, are you Singaporean?
Now I am, so that's funny, right? I was born PR, permanent resident. So my parents, both of them, were from Batu Pahat, Malaysia, and they grew up there, and they went to high school JC in Singapore, and they did university in Imperial College. However, they came back to Singapore after they graduated from Imperial, and they started working in Singapore. Yeah, they started working in Singapore. They've been working in Singapore ever since. So like 40 years, and I was born a Malaysian citizen, but I did 2 years worth of national service, and I got my Singaporean citizenship from there. And so now I'm Singaporean, and it's a weird transition thing where half of my family actually all of my family are applying to be Singaporean citizens. And currently 3 out of 5 of us are Singaporean, but yeah, let's not go too deep into that.
Okay, and would you consider your Chinese heritage an important part of who you are?
Okay, so this touches upon some things that are quite interesting. So personally, I feel quite connected to my Chinese heritage. So as a Malaysian, I go back to Malaysia every Chinese New Year to celebrate Chinese New Year, and I personally feel that there is more like culture and festival and spirit of celebration in Malaysia than in Singapore. Singapore is a bit, oh my, these must be Singaporeans watching. But, no, but I just feel more connected because like over there my relatives like speak in Teochew, the dialect, all the time, and I actually like purely speak in Mandarin over there, which is terrible. My Mandarin is terrible, and yeah. So one of the big reasons actually I came to Yale-NUS, I'm jumping ahead, is that Yale-NUS has a lot of focus on East Asia, like the East rather than just the West, and I was really drawn in by that we're going to read like some classics like the Analects, Kongzi, and Confucius, and even the Ramayana.
Okay. Gonna ask a bit about your family background. So, could you tell me a bit about your family's like socio-economic background, like what class, religion?
Okay. Both my parents. We'll start with religion. Both my parents were atheists, you might say, and but about 10 years ago, my dad converted to Christianity, and so did my mom. And then, as things go, my dad tried to convert the 3 children. I have 2 sisters, and didn't go so well. 3 of us still don't believe, but my dad's still working on it for the past 10 years. So it's a long time. Regarding socio-economic, I think my family is in the upper middle class, so no financial problems. I'm not on financial aid, and we make do. Personally, my parents are really they treat me well. It isn't like whenever I need money, I can ask my mom. My mom gives me money, so yeah. So it's good. Socio-economic system, standing good.
Okay, so what do your parents do for a living and where do your siblings study?
Okay. My dad works at Nanyang Polytechnic as a senior lecturer in computer systems. So that's a whole mumbo jumbo, but basically high levels of academia in Nanyang Polytechnic and gets paid a bunch to do that. My mom actually, after she got retrenched from POSB Bank, now it's merged with DBS, but she actually got retrenched because of the merger. She was retrenched about 15 years ago, and since then, she's actually been teaching at a autistic children's school called Rainbow Center. So my mom is great. She has an incredibly large heart, and she just teaches autistic children, which is extremely noble. That's my mom's. So both my parents are teachers. My older sister, born in 1988, is currently working at STB, Singapore Tourism Board, and she studied in SIM under University of Buffalo. My second sister, born in 1991, studied in SMU, Singapore Management University, and she's currently working at the Four Seasons Hotel.
Sorry, SIM is?
Oh, SIM is, thank you. Singapore Institute of Management. Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the questions about Yale-NUS.
Okay.
Tell me how you came to know about Yale-NUS.
Okay, so way back when I was in the army, right now in 2015, it's compulsory for all male Singaporeans or even male permanent residents to be enlisted in the army for 2 years. Technically it's 1 year and 10 months, but split the difference. And during this time, the girls would go off to university and start their own thing, and the guys would go to the army for 2 years. And during this time, it was when I think there was a newspaper article, or like it was the buzz, like maybe it was Facebook or whatnot, magazines in fact or something. But I think it was a newspaper that announced the opening of the idea, the conception of this Yale-NUS college. And in fact, contrary to what usually happens, where the child tells the parents that they want to study at Yale-NUS because I want to follow my passion or stuff like that. I was pretty set on going to UC Berkeley or Stanford to do some computer science or electrical engineering thing. But my parents actually told me, my dad is a Renaissance man, he's pretty into the liberal arts kind of thing. And he said, Dylan, why don't you try to apply for this? So I was really unenthusiastic because like why would I want to do liberal arts? But eventually I applied, I got in, I went for an interview, I got in, and then that's how I heard about Yale-NUS and I applied and got into Yale-NUS.
Okay. So could you tell me about your interactions and your impressions of like the people at admissions, like Austin, like Dean Quinlan?
Okay. I think so. The admissions team way back when, very early, it's changed over the years to today. But I think Yale-NUS is a great admissions team. Like I think that they work very hard. And once in a while I come down to Yale-NUS in my free time to see my friends. But you see them working tirelessly. I believe that they spend so much time interviewing and going through the applicants of each of the applications of each of the applicants. They spend so much time for each one, and they put so much care and make sure that they have the best applicants available.
So what's the application process like? How do they select students?
So first you send an application. There is no cut-off point. Basically, you don't need a number of A's. You don't need like SAT scores or AP scores or A levels or whatnot. And you obviously have the essays, and then they review each application, and after that you have an interview with one of the admissions staff. So they usually, if you're international, they usually conduct it over Skype. But for me, I actually came down to Starbucks in University Town, and I was interviewed by Angela. I think the funny thing that they said about the interview was that you're supposed to wear, I think the term was smart casual, but they actually didn't exactly care what you wore. Because in most interviews you wear a monkey suit, you wear the suit, you wear the blazer, and then you're really uncomfortable, and then it's a show, right? It's a sham kind of thing. But Yale-NUS, I thought it was really cool that it was all about the substance of the person. And I spent a long time talking to Angela about just like life in general. Not so much about like why do I want to come to Yale-NUS, or like how am I a good fit, or how do you like what literature books have you read? Because at that point in time, zero for me. But I just talked about like how I enjoy studying, or like how I love computer science, or how I love designing games. And I don't know, I felt like a really like honest, comfortable interview, and really honest, comfortable interview.
So what was your first impression of Yale-NUS?
So that was the first impression, but I think the experience that really convinced me of Yale-NUS was the Experience Yale-NUS weekend. It was one of the very, very early ones, round zero. And basically during this point, the applicants during this stage they either are guys in NS, or they are girls or people who are planning to take gap years. Because if you apply now and get in, you still need to wait at least 1 year before the school starts. So what we have here is a collection of really a bit crazy people who really like the idea of Yale-NUS. And it was during this weekend that I got to talk to a lot of my future peers. I mean, obviously a lot of them didn't come, but the few that I remember from the round zero weekend, we had a very long discussion about life, love, school, academics, research, technology, and like the discussion that we had that lasted to 4 AM, I thought it was pretty life-changing.
So what was the turning point? What made you like click yes on Yale-NUS?
It's really that weekend, because like before, I really was quite unenthusiastic about Yale-NUS. liberal arts school. I'm a science student, and I mean there are these general arguments like, oh, you know, I could learn some breadth or whatever. But really, it was meeting the people at Round Zero and like seeing how passionate they are about their field, like about whether it's history or global affairs or life science or something, and how they had this like zest for life and learning, and then they could spread it. They could like share their enthusiasm and their fanaticism with other people around them. I thought that was a turning point for sure.
That's great. Okay. I remember when we were in Round Zero and we were talking about like, what if none of the great people we met like click yes and we are the only like people and like we don't know anyone else. But you were in Round Zero, and that's unique because no one else was admitted into the college yet. So how did being in Round Zero contribute to your experience of Yale-NUS, having a whole year before school started? Who were your Round Zero friends? What did you guys do together?
So there was this there was this WhatsApp group, what's it called? Only Saturday Meetups or something. Yeah, and basically it was during
other than Saturday meetups.
Other than Saturday Meetups.
After a while, it became other than Saturday meetups.
Ah yeah, for sure. No, you're right. No, but what we're trying to say here is that what we had after Round Zero was a group of people who were pretty enthusiastic about Yale-NUS, and we met practically every Saturday to do whatnot, whether it was going out for a movie or going to someone's house or like, I don't even exactly remember what the hell we did, like how did we manage to find things to do every Saturday, but we definitely did something every Saturday, and we did this for several months, and this group was very tightly bonded, like eventually it would work its way such that after round 1, some of the people would actually join the group and we would hang out together, and like this is the gateway, or like the way that someone would know about Yale-NUS College. Like I think we managed to convince, or we had a lot of fun with a lot of early admittees, and one of the fun things that I did was I actually went to Thailand with 6 of us before school started, and that was pretty fun as well.
Okay, so what fears or criticisms did like students, parents, anyone else have about Yale-NUS?
Okay, this is actually very real like now, and it's very annoying to repeat every open day. Basically, open day is when Yale-NUS opens its doors, and then all the future admittees and their parents come to Yale-NUS, and they start asking, should I come to Yale-NUS? What are my future career prospects? Can I find a job? And the answer is always yes, probably. And this actually was the same case when we were in round 0. Basically, a lot of us were worried, can we really do anything with a liberal arts degree? It's not a science degree, it's not a computer science degree, it's not a law, medicine degree, and which back here right now is all the rage. Yeah, so people are just like super worried about like career and stuff. But the fun stuff about the fun part about me is that my parents never cared about it. Like my parents just didn't do whatever you want, you'll be fine. You're a smart kid. Do what makes you happy. And so a lot of kids and parents had that kind of idea, but not me and my family.
Okay, so we spent orientation in Yale for 3 weeks. How do you think that contributed to your experience and the student culture?
Okay, so on the topic of Yale, so some background is that after we got admitted, I waited about like 1.5 years before I eventually started school, but it flew because national service, the military thing sucks. Either ways, when it started in July, we had this 1 week of this thing called Singapore orientation. It's a smart name. Actually, it's pretty smart, I think. Anyways, where a lot of these round 0 people actually planned a orientation around Singapore with amazing race and stuff. And then after we got to know each other peripherally. We went to, we all flew to Yale in fact. There were 2 planes. So there were actually 2 flights. One went eastward and one went westward. And it was pretty badass. We arrived on the same day. One of us arrived 12 hours later. But when we arrived in Yale, we went to Berkeley College. Yeah, it was Berkeley College, and we basically took over the entire college. It was just Yale-NUS students, 150 of us, and we owned the place because basically Yale pampered us. We had all the special events. We had this thing called Thunder Brunch. We had foot. We had Thunder Brunch is a Saturday brunch where it's a Berkeley tradition where you celebrate like just great food and great company, and it's a welcoming thing. Foot is a mountaineering trek thing in some of the mountains they have nearby Yale, and they had the best professors to come and lecture us. One cool thing is that we actually met the UN, United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who supposedly wanted to address us, the pioneering batch of Yale-NUS. That was super badass. But anyways, I think the really cool part, like this 3-week Yale trip, was, I think, a highlight of my life, because like we had 3 weeks of, we did have lectures every day, and each week was a different topic, but the stakes were so low because there was no homework, there were no grades. There was quite a ton of readings, but you don't actually need to do them. And the thing is that we all did the readings very early on, and we discovered that some of the professors never referenced the readings. So like the risk-reward payoff didn't make a lot of sense. You could do all the readings, they might not reference it. We had seminars as well, but again, it's not graded, so you could, and a lot of these kind of things you could pass along in the seminar, giving your personal opinion about certain subjects. You don't need to do the reading. Not to say you shouldn't do your readings, but what I'm trying to say is that back then we had the meal times to talk to each other, get to know each other. It was really free, and every single time you go to a dining hall, the food in Yale is great. Like, and every single day you grab your food and you sit down with a different person, and you get to know them. You get to know your fellow Round Zero people. You get to know your fellow freshmen, and I mean we're all the class of 2017. And at the end of 3 weeks, you know every single one of them by name, and like you could tell a random fact about every single person in 150, and a lot more for some others. And also during this time, we started all the student groups, and Kevin, Chris, T, and I started improv, and just so many good memories from this time. It's kind of sad that like nothing, I don't think anything comes close to replicating this 3-week Yale experience, and it's a bit sad, I guess you could say.
Okay, we'll move on to talk about the culture at Yale-NUS. So what do you think are the big differences between Yale-NUS and NUS?
Okay, so we're putting a bit of a can of worms here, because as I was applying to university, I told myself, you know, I want to go to Stanford, Berkeley, and NUS will be my fallback. And to be honest, I never wanted to go to NUS. Like, I never wanted to go to NUS. I really, after spending 18 years in Singapore and going through the education, JC education, secondary school education, blah, I really don't want more of the same. I really don't want any more of the same, because I mean, there's only so much you can know about staying in one country, and the same system. Like NUS is really similar to the JC system as well. So on that topic, I think the NUS system it's just a continuation, extension of like the Singaporean JCs, and one of the problems is that they have so many people in NUS, and I know this because as a computer science student in Yale-NUS, I actually quite often have to go to NUS to take certain modules. But the problem is that when I go there, the lecture is to 300 people, and the seminars are also pretty detached. Like my seminar is 20 people, and now it's week 8 or something. In the 8 weeks that I've been there, and I go to NUS 4 times a week, I haven't made a single friend. I don't mean that I have bad social skills. It's just that there's really no avenue to meet like to even like get to know your classmates. It's a pretty sterile place, and you really have to know like to get to know people from either orientation or student organizations and groups. Uh, yeah, and the attention you get from professors is also really low. There's some NUS profs that do it better than others, but like in Yale-NUS, you get classes of size ranging from 1, 2 to I think the maximum is 20, and it's pretty good. Like that, I think that's the biggest difference academics wise. NUS and Yale-NUS.
Okay, how about like residential living or the curriculum in general?
Okay. So for residential living, so first of all, NUS is a non-residential school, and Yale-NUS is a fully residential school, which means that over 4 years in Yale-NUS, you are guaranteed boarding, you're guaranteed a room, and you are given meals 3 times a day. Asterisks, because the weekend you get 2, but because breakfast and lunch is combined in brunch. It's logistically sound.
So how do you think the residential living experience adds to like the culture at Yale-NUS?
Yeah, so no, so there is also residential living in NUS, but I think that the experience is totally different. One of the greatest things that I think that Yale-NUS has about residential life is that they encourage the students to not go home on the weekends, because I think a big problem with like an experience of an international student is that all the locals go home every weekend, and then on the weekends in a college it's a ghost town because no one lives, no one's doing anything. It's always just quiet and nothing happens. But Yale-NUS, I think that they have taken a step towards like cohesion, especially on the weekends. For example, for me, I only go home once a week for Sunday dinner, family dinner, and then immediately I come back to Yale-NUS. Not to say that no one goes home. In fact, still a lot of people go home over the weekends, for the entire weekend even. But I think that there is at least an effort and attempt to integrate, like, make sure that there's a college community in life. And college community in life we have in abundance. And I think that's actually probably the biggest selling point for Yale-NUS. The community and the people here are unmatched and unparalleled, and I really do love the community that we have built in Yale-NUS.
So how is the curriculum different from that of both NUS and Yale? Yeah.
Okay. Oof, I'm not too sure about this question.
Common curriculum or like
okay.
what kind of text you do?
Okay, of course. Okay, so I've briefly touched upon this before, but yeah, Yale-NUS, one of the cooler parts is that it's a liberal arts school, but I think most of the liberal arts schools in US focus on Western literature and classics and blah, Greek, Western thinkers, but definitely what's cool about Yale-NUS is that we have a focus not just on the West but on the East as well. We read Chinese texts, Indian literature, and even Asian thinkers as well. And we also do like Odyssey and John Stuart Mill, Tocqueville, but I really enjoy it that we are given a global perspective on how people think about how thought has evolved over time, and we don't get a westernized Occidental view of the world.
Okay. In the first year, what was the student culture like, and how do you think that has changed as more people came in over the next 2 years?
Okay, so the first year I remember very fondly because one of the things that is cool is that, one of the things that is hard is that the first 2 years in fact, we were in RC4, which is just right next door. We were living off one of the spare residential colleges in NUS U-Town, and it was very small. All our rooms were in one building, like 300 students in one building, and even the staff officers were in the building. Not just professors, but our support staff as well, like the finance, the admissions, the tech. And all our classrooms were also in that building. So we never left, and we have this really tight-knit group of people, because not only did we already know everyone because we were a really small class, but like we'll meet people in the lift all the time, on the way to class, on the way to dining hall. We have this very open common lounge every floor, and the events, whenever there's something going on, you could see clearly what's happening. You just walk in and, like, you know, go for, maybe it was a rector's tea, maybe it was a welcome tea, maybe it was a movie screening, and it's really easy to find out what's going on campus. So nowadays the school's bigger, sad, because now the campus is bigger, the connection is less apparent. You don't feel a bond to everyone in the school, and you know, it's not bad per se. It definitely has changed.
Sure. I think now we can move on to maybe like a bit more touchy topics. So, do you think there were instances where the student body made an intentional effort to like either push for a certain culture or to push a certain aspect of the student culture out? Like, could talk about confessions.
Well, first of all, I don't know much. Okay, so we're talking about YNC confessions here, and I don't know whether it still exists then, now, whenever this is being. No. So confessions is this Facebook, anonymous Facebook group thing where you sort of can anonymously confess something. Maybe you could say, anonymously, I think Karen's dress looks amazing today. Oh, I think Karen looks really attractive today, or something like that. Well, that's the good side, and it's anonymous, so you don't know who sent it. The bad side would be something along like, don't you think Beatrice is not a person, Beatrice is really bitchy today, or like Beatrice sleeps around a lot, or something like that, and it's totally anonymous, so it became really toxic. And I never. Okay, I mean, I was always quite against confessions, but for some reason it was really trending back then, and I thought it became a really big deal in our first year, and
So like, what happened to it? How do people feel?
There was a lot of there was a lot of people had very strong opinions about it, and there were also some regular posters. This guy named William Shakespeare. I think to this day we don't know who it is. This anonymous guy who keeps posting random crap. I think I don't know what to say. I thought that it was an unhealthy thing for the college, and I'm glad it sort of petered off and died off.
Okay, so currently we're facing an issue with the library. Could you tell us about it? What do you think about it?
Alright, so problems come all the time. So the current flavor of the week problem, well, really this is a long problem, because anyways, what's going on is that the Yale-NUS library is totally new. It's large-ish. Well, it's not that large, but it's really nice, and it really looks like Hogwarts. Like, I hope we still have the same library. It's just like really cool. The problem is that there's not that much study space, and we really like it, and we don't want NUS people to use it, and and I've heard this complaint that NUS people choke their seats. They reserve it by putting their laptops or their books on the table, and then they leave or something, such that when you want to come to study, the table is taken even though no one's there. And so basically the argument is that I don't want any of these NUS people in our library. We should make Yale-NUS library Yale-NUS property only, and NUS people can't come in. The big point of the issue is that Yale-NUS students can use all of NUS facilities. In fact, we do. We use their classes, that's the big one. We use their libraries, and we can study there. We use their gym, We use their dance studios and their sports courts once in a while. And why is it so unfair that Yale-NUS students can use NUS facilities, but NUS students can't use our facilities? So lots of ideas jump around like, oh, NUS students are rude, or like they reserve their stuff, they're uncivic minded. You could say, oh, but NUS students are so much, the population is so much larger, and if a small percentage of them uses Yale-NUS facilities, we won't have our own study space. And if all of Yale-NUS students use NUS facilities, they won't even notice the difference. Personally, I think I don't really use the library that much. I prefer studying in my room, and so I don't think my opinion is exactly the best. Like, it might not be really informed. For example, obviously I haven't run into people who have choked their seats with their stuff, but I actually think that it's really unfair. We should just share our space. I think we already have a pretty controversial image in the eyes of NUS, and it's pretty bad as it is. I think we should do all we can to sort of give the olive branch and set the tone right. I think right now the good thing is that the student government is collecting feedback, and we have a sort of more solidified stance on it. We don't just have the vocal minority speaking, but we really have a dialogue going on, and we can sort of represent Yale-NUS's views.
Okay, so on that note, do you have any idea like what NUS's perceptions of Yale-NUS are like?
So I do have quite a few NUS friends from NUS High, of course, and the thing is that I personally think that the majority of NUS people either don't know, and if they do, they don't care. But here's the thing: the people who do know have generally negative reactions to Yale-NUS. So first of all, why do they not care? Why do they not know? It's a new school, and as fast as word travels fast, there are lots of people who simply don't care and don't. You could live a perfectly fine life without finding out what Yale-NUS is or does. And for people who don't care, we don't actually affect their lives very much. We don't take their classes, and there's no announcement to say, oh, Dylan is in your computing class. So it doesn't actually affect their life. For the people who do know us, who know of our existence, they probably know us from maybe sports events, or when we have a barbecue or something and they can smell it, and then they're like, oh, why is Yale-NUS having another barbecue? Or when we have a buffet and they can see it and they're like, oh, great, Yale-NUS is having another buffet. And it just gives the impression that since we have so many events, we're very rich, entitled, spoiled. And while all these things are probably half true, we are a new school and we have a lot of openings because we have a lot to celebrate. 10 years old, 100 days old, 1 year old, 5 years old, 2 years old, everything is a celebration right now. And we just had inauguration, and we opened a new campus. There's a lot to celebrate. So, and also furthermore, as I mentioned before, Yale-NUS students are not doing, because we don't interact with NUS students that much, we don't really present our best foot forward when we interact with NUS students.
Okay. So we moved into this new campus half a semester ago. What do you think about the way it was designed, and do you think it suits the needs of our community?
Okay, so one of the cool things about the new campus right now here is that I think it's pretty clearly designed. A lot of design architecture philosophies have Yale in mind, and like some kind of old castle-y things, basically pretty different from Singaporean architecture design. So I think Singaporean architecture design, if I may put a Dylan spin on it, is pretty ruthless and savage. Every corner and every square meter needs a function. If not, delete it and give it a function. So if there's corners unoccupied, put a printer there. If this corner is unoccupied, it's a fire escape or something like that. if I need to go there, there should be a path leading there. So that's the Singapore design. And in contrast, the Yale-NUS design is perplexing because that we get from A to B, and then we have a sort of winding path, and it looks really nice, but it's really un-Singaporean. And once in a while I see like random corners with nothing in them, and I get pretty anxious because this is not what I'm used to. And I think one of the biggest sinners is actually the Sky Gardens. So what happens is that in our residential colleges, I'm in Chandana right now, RC3. In fact, all the residential colleges, Saga, Elm, and Chandana have Sky Gardens. Such that every 3 floors there's a patio area, open air area for people to hang out and chill. So the idea is that in Yale, every college has its own open space for people to sit under a tree, hang out, talk, chill, and relax with their friends. And this idea makes a lot of sense if you want to transplant it to Singapore, because it's so nice to have a nice area. The thing is that they made it once every 3 floors, which is okay. The problem is that nobody wants to go out in Singapore because the temperature sucks. It's like 30 to 35 degrees all the time, and the moment you step out, you're sweating, so nobody ever wants to hang out outside. So we have some nice green areas, we have these Sky Gardens, but I just think that it's not very smart. We're not going to use them. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about student groups. So you talked a bit about how you guys formed the improv comedy conglomerate, so you can tell us about how it came to be founded?
Yeah, so I am a co-founder and executive vice president. We're stepping off soon because we're year 3 and we need to pass on leadership. But co-founder and executive vice president of the improv comedy conglomerate. Hopefully it still exists 50 years time. Probably not. So what happens is that when we were in Yale, Kevin and Chris somehow had the brainwave to start this new improv group. So they have watched a bunch of Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is a improv TV show, and they decided why not we try it out in our new school. It's not a very common CCA co-curricular activity to have, and so they for some reason thought who's funny in Yale-NUS, and they thought of me, and I'm very honored that 2 years and some amount of days ago they thought of me when they thought of a funny person. And they came to me over lunch or something and said, "Hey Dylan, do you want to start an improv club in Yale-NUS?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Because at this point in time I say yes to anything. If someone said, "Do you want to do a Bhangra?" Okay, maybe not Bhangra, I'm not into Bhangra. If someone said, "Painting club," I suck at painting, but I probably said yes. Anyways, so it just, one thing led to another, and we had these meetings in Yale, we had workshops, we had tryouts, and there was this student-led show to show our appreciation to Yale and to Marvin Chun, our rector in Berkeley, and we decided to perform, and the rest is history because we came back to Singapore, we continued to have improv sessions, we continued to have shows and workshops. We've changed a lot over the years, and I really like the club. It's very organized, it's very put together, and I'm very proud of what we've made so far. I think it's one of the best. It's the single best club in Yale-NUS.
Okay, so I mean it started back in orientation, right, in 2013. How do you think improv has developed over the years? Where do you gain inspiration from? Yeah. How do you train yourselves?
Okay, so that's a really specific question. But so what's going on is that how it's changed over the years. Every new startup club, runs into its own like growing problems. So early on we had people. I think improv is best performed when the performers know each other very well, and this worked out really well in the first year because all 150 of us knew each other really well. So the small troupe that we have, about like 10 people, were very comfortable with each other. And when we performed, it shows. So it's really good. the evolution that we had over the years is that as more people came in, we had people who were less committed, we had people who were more committed, but we never really got to know each other that well. Like, we were not that close as we would like to be. And because everyone in Yale-NUS is so busy and overcommitted, we call this FOMO, fear of missing out. They're committed to so many things, so they don't regularly come to improv. So it's weird to get to, you can't really develop a bond with someone when someone doesn't come to improv every week. So we had this problem of commitment and sort of lack of trust and connection. So what we did in year 3 was that we did something really drastic, and we kicked everyone out of improv and we re-auditioned everyone back into improv. And so we're done with it now, and now we currently have 16 people in improv only. Back from a non-committal 30. Yeah, and these people we know, we tell them, we sort of telegraph to them, we really care about you, you're important to us, so we should be important to you. And we're working on the trust and connection and bond. So lots of things change over the years and evolve.
Okay. Can you tell us about your experience with ballroom dancing and troop ball?
Yeah. So apart from improv, I do ballroom dance and troop ball. So let's do the easier one, or easier of the two first. Troop ball I do because, well, it's good to be fit and all that, and yeah, it's good to be fit. Way back in NUS High, I didn't do a single physical activity, but I thought, hey, it's not a bad idea to do troop ball, and I don't think I'm very particularly good with balls, but it was a new club. It's actually a pretty new sport, and we had people. I really liked the group. I really liked the troop ball, my fellow players, and I just go every week, and the spirit is really fun, and we perform really well in our intercollegiate games and our inter-faculty games, and so it's really fun because winning is fun. And so that's troop ball, and also now ballroom dance. So what happens is that I do ballroom dance because I'm a sappy romantic, and I think ballroom dance is really romantic, and I like to ballroom dance, so I really like to swing, and so I do ballroom dance. I'm not any form of the leadership position, but I do ballroom dance, and we do performances once in a while with, whether it's a performance for the school or generally I do performances for the school. The rest do bigger. I just don't do so much. So this also speaks to a certain level of commitment in Yale-NUS. Is that past a certain point, now I'm year 3, I need to choose what I want to focus in. I can't join 7 different clubs and have good participation in all of them. So sort of you gotta choose what you wanna focus on, and I focus on these 3 things. Improv being the most prioritized.
And did you dance before all this?
Oh, I took 2 weeks of classes, and so I didn't do much ballroom dance before this, but so a lot of the training I did here, and yeah, we have some really good student teachers. Joan Danielle Ong Choko is her name. She's a really good teacher. She's a student, by the way.
Okay, so let's talk about your experiences with the staff and administration. So have your student groups worked with DOS before, and what's that like, Dean of Students?
Yeah, the Dean of Students office. So I won't get into the nitty-bitty details of the DOS because I think a lot of people are very opinionated about this thing. Personally, I'm not too opinionated. I tend to shy away from bureaucracy. So I do the fun stuff of like acting and program and stuff. But so what happens is that the DOS is in charge of sort of like student life and programs, and they typically ask improv to like perform shows for whether it be family weekend or um, some like end of semester performance, and they usually ask improv, and it's really nice because it's nice to be wanted, right? And so, but we do our own regular show every semester anyway. And what's more is that we actually perform, this is not at the US, but for admissions, we actually perform for EYW, Experience Yale-NUS Weekend. And I think that a lot of people have told me that they came to Yale-NUS because they thought improv was cool. Not really the best reason to come to Yale-NUS, but I'll take it, I'll take it.
Okay, let's move on to the curriculum. So we talked a bit about the common curriculum, and I understand many of the subjects were new to you. So which do you enjoy and what were challenges?
Alright, so we're talking about common curriculum. The first semester there was literature, literature and humanities, PPT, philosophy and political thought. We have CSI, which is comparative social institutions, and we have scientific inquiry. So this is the first four. So basically there's one science and three non-science. Social science is not a science, guys. Come on, please. And so I'm really good with one of them. Let's start with scientific inquiry. It's so easy. Like I was suffering because it was so easy. Like it was just bored me to tears. But the other three sort of made up for it because I didn't do very much literature, philosophy especially, and social science before Yale-NUS. So a lot of times I struggled with the readings. A lot of times I didn't do the readings, simply because it's too difficult and I'm just not used to taking 3 reading modules. But however, I really enjoyed the first semester. Like it gave me a really good overview and depth of like world history. It just felt like we started in the BCs and then we were just working our way from ancient history, and then I think we made it to maybe the 1500s, the Renaissance. We haven't even reached the Renaissance. That was semester 2, and it was pretty badass because you learn so much you just get a feel of so much history, and you feel like a really learned person, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so you talked a bit about scientific inquiry. Can you tell us about integrated science? How did you find that?
So what integrated science is that early on in Yale-NUS career, there is this module called integrated science. It starts in semester 2 and carries on to semester 3. In fact, it's 1 module in semester 2 and 2 modules in semester 3. And the idea is that, wouldn't it be really nice if rather than learning physics, chemistry and biology, you learn all 3 of them under one umbrella of integrated science? Because on the topic of redoing the curriculum, I mean, Yale-NUS is a really unique and special new curriculum where you study more of the East stuff. Let's change some science curriculum as well. The experiment was, could you do justice such that you could teach all 3 sciences at once? The sad answer was that, not really.
Sorry, who was this for?
Who is this for?
Who took integrated science?
Of course. So, back when 2 years ago, you could choose whether you wanted to do pro science or noob science. So if you're good at science, you take integrated science, and if you don't think your science is up for you, science is the thing for you, you could take foundations of science. So that one, lower level of science, Karen. Yeah, so that's that. And the problem is that teaching science as it is, teaching integrated science is difficult enough to integrate all 3 together, find a common theme. I think the idea of it was really good. The execution was questionable because, first of all, the big problem is that we have students coming from really different backgrounds. We have students like, unfortunately me, because I don't mean to brag, but I'm at the top of the spectrum, being the most comfortable with science. And then the people who I guess you could say shouldn't be taking science, shouldn't be taking integrated science because they didn't take science in JC, and you have to cater to all these people. You couldn't really discuss a topic that sort of links physics and biology because you need to teach all the things leading up to that topic before you sort of link it, and it just proved too difficult. The curriculum was very difficult to teach, and it was a really difficult module to teach, and it was, in my opinion, done quite badly. Right now, 2 years later, they are removing integrated science. What becomes of it, I will not know.
Okay. So there are 3 professors in particular that you particularly respect and admire. One of them is Prof. Ng Hui Kun. One is Dean Charles Bailyn, who was your academic advisor, and the other is Aquinas Hobor, who played an instrumental role in designing like the computational sciences curriculum. So do you want to tell us about them?
Okay, so so we have a lot of staff and faculty who obviously came up with the new curriculum in Yale-NUS, and I think it's very challenging to come up with a new curriculum because you're basically doing all the work all over again. That you go to a regular school, you just have to teach this, maybe calculus 1. You know what you're supposed to teach, and you know how people teach it. When you come to Yale-NUS, you have to design scientific inquiry. You have to design a certain track for students to go through. If I want to study physics, you can't teach the normal physics module for a physics major in another school because you need to finish everything, but in 2 years instead of 4. So Ng Hui Kun is, I'm really into physics as well, and she's my physics prof. She taught me classical mechanics. I think she's one of the most dedicated and devoted teachers ever. Yeah, she teaches really, she works really hard preparing for lesson plan every week. She like gets feedback all the time, and she teaches with all her heart and crushes us with every lecture because it's so difficult. And every week she gives a new problem set that literally smashes us into the ground. And then she feels bad when we do badly. She like, her heart bleeds whenever we do badly. And like, do you know how sad it is to like disappoint someone who cares so much about you? Yes. So it was a really good module of classical mechanics. It was also really difficult. One of the most trying parts of my life. And so that's Ng Hui Kun. I really respect Ng Hui Kun. Yeah. So Dean Charles Bailyn is the Dean of Faculty, which like doubles up as the Dean of Academics, because I don't think we do not have a Dean of Academics. So he's in charge of like all the faculty, and I think in charge of like how majors work and stuff like that. All the education stuff is up to him. So he's really a lot of work to do. He's always swamped. Every time you see him, he's saying, "Oh, I'm rushing off the meeting," but he's usually smiling, like almost all the time. So it's really nice. But if you want to get in touch with him, it's difficult. But however, when I do talk to him, it's always very good. I always reaffirm my life. He always reaffirms my life decisions about whether I'm doing a certain module or whether I'm choosing a certain. If I'm going, how's my summer plans and X and Y and Z. So I really like Dean Bailyn. And when we talk, we usually digress into nerdy things like Dungeons and Dragons or how Spanish is spoken in Chile, or like tells me some anecdote from his university life. So it's really fun to talk to him. And lastly, Aquinas Hobor, he is in charge of, he was the first CS prof we have in, CS is computer science, Karen. I don't think that ever changes.
I'm sorry.
And, I mean, I guess, whatever. Anyways, CS is computer science, and early on we didn't have that many CS profs. Now we only have 4. There's still not that many. And he's in charge of developing the CS curriculum for Yale-NUS, and I cannot imagine how much work he has to do to sort of fight the bureaucracy to push for certain things that he wants. Like he had to push to sort of stuff CS into integrated science. and he has to, and this is a guy who is really socially inept. Aquinas Hobor, I really like him, but he's pretty useless. But I can tell, and it's really obvious that he hates bureaucracy, like, you know, fighting the system and stuff like that. And I'm sure he has to do that all the time. And it must be so hard to be a professor in a new college. I'm sure that after like 5 years, you just want to just like sit down and relax. Yeah. This is really hard to be faculty in a new college.
Okay. So grades. How do you think the faculty wanted us to take learning, and do you feel like our attitude towards grades now reflects that?
Alright, so I think that Yale-NUS, being an experimental new college, really wants us to push towards focusing more on learning than the grades. So like, you really should focus on learning about the world and phenomenon and stuff, rather than just focusing on how do I get an A, how do I get an A plus, is this good enough for an A, prof, how do I write this essay just like an A, how much weightage is this test, oh no I did so badly on this one, how much do I have to do to get an A or stuff like that. It's really disgusting when people talk this way, and personally I feel that this is not the way to learn, and I think that it's actually pretty apparent in Yale-NUS that the professors don't want us to learn this way, but and it's good as well, it's better than NUS because we only have like 20 people in the class and we don't need to put it on a bell curve, because you could give all 6 students in the class an A, but if you have 200 students and all of them get an A, that's wrong. So you have to curve it in a big class. So the good thing about Yale-NUS is that since it's small, you don't need to curve it. The problem is that I think when you get good students, and that's what we have in Yale-NUS College, is that we have really world-class students. They only get there because they really care about their grades. And that's pretty despicable. Yeah, I don't know. I personally believe that it's much better to learn for the sake of learning than learn for the sake of grades or career or masters or going to graduate school. It's pretty disgusting.
Okay. Let's talk about your overseas experiences. So, could you tell us what a week 7 and what a lab is and what you did?
Alright, so week 7, as the name might imply, is that every freshman in the freshman year, on the week 7, it's usually it's next to break week. It's in fact immediately after break week. So after break week, the entire school pauses for a week of classes. We have no classes for a week, and we all fly out to different parts of the world, asterisks, to study a thing that's totally different from what you're studying right now. So asterisks because not everyone goes overseas. I think half of them go overseas, and half their programs, half of them are in Singapore. It's cooler to go overseas, but whatever. I did a program in Banda Aceh. Banda Aceh, I don't need to say where it is, you can Google Maps it, right? In case it disappeared in 50 years, Banda Aceh is southwest of Singapore, and it was hit by a tsunami, a very terrible Banda Aceh tsunami in 2013. sorry, what was it? 2004, of course. It's a long interview, guys. Anyway, 2004 in December, it was hit by a terrible tsunami, and so 10 years later, 2013, 10 generally, we went back to Banda Aceh to see how they rebuilt since the tsunami, and we learned not so much about it. We didn't learn so much about the tsunami or reconstruction, yes, but it's really more about the life and times and how industry and economy has developed in Banda Aceh. And it was just a really slice of life experience, and I just learned more about, rather than learning from a class, the idea is that you don't want to learn everything in a classroom, you want to go on and have experiential learning, and I think Banda Aceh sort of accomplish this because we did learn a lot about Badache actually.
Labs?
So the labs, there are these things called spring labs and summer labs. Is that Yale-NUS has these programs that brings you out to different parts of the world to investigate something. So a lot of these are, as Yale-NUS programs, are arts focused. Like, well, when I say arts, I do fallaciously mean social science, arts, and humanities. But what happens is that there are, like for example, there are writing modules, there are writing labs, there are religious labs. Like there's Buddhism in Kyoto, there is Jerusalem lab, there is some writing lab in Middle East or something. I cannot lie to say that I am interested in these things. I would love to go just for the experience, just that I do not care that much about religion as someone who actually does. And so what I applied for and what I got was this Spain Biodiversity Lab in the mountains of Asturias. So that's in the northern part of Spain. And what we did is that over summer, it was a summer lab, I went with Professor Jennifer Sheridan and a whole bunch of us. We went to Madrid first, and then we went to Asturias to investigate the frogs and flora and fauna of the mountains of Somiedo National Park. And it was really fun. And actually, this was one of the parts that led me to start studying Spanish, and now I'm actually Spanish level 5, which is advanced level 1. I'm pretty conversational in Spanish. It's pretty cool that I got the experience, the opportunity to go on these things because of Yale-NUS.
Okay, so what are you planning to study abroad and where? And do you face any problems with that?
Alright, so as a CS computer science major, I want to go abroad and do CS things because, well, just a quick background is that we only have a certain limited period of time to do CS, and we don't have much time to branch out. And it's like if I'm a CS major, I can't dabble forever. I can't keep doing literature, history, art, poetry. I actually need to get down and start doing my CS modules. And I would really like to go to somewhere in the United States and to go to a really good school like MIT or Stanford or Berkeley and do courses in CS over there. And maybe over there I can find an internship and work out from there. The problem is that, if you could say it's a problem, is that Yale-NUS has exchange programs to a lot of non-sciencey schools. I don't even list them. I can't even list them off the top of my head because I don't remember them. But they don't have these exchange programs to these technical, engineering, computer science schools. So, and a lot of these schools don't actually offer personal petition programs. I can't apply as an individual. Usually it's a school with a program that you can go to these programs. So it's kind of sad, but I'm having some troubles going to overseas. My first choice is, right now, that I know the schools I might be able to get into is Carnegie Mellon University, which is a really good university, but I do not know about their exchange policy. Supposedly you can, I'm not sure if I will be able to get it. My first choice is Carnegie Mellon, my second choice is Harvard, Columbia. That's that.
Okay, so let's talk about your daily life. Describe a typical day in detail.
Alright, we're gonna go into really personal stuff right now. So this is my room. It's a pretty nerdy room. We can see a Marvel poster over.
You can't believe it.
What's that? Oh, that's a League of Legends poster. Okay. Anyways, so what happens is that we're gonna, rather than giving a general thing about Yale-NUS in average of 4 years, I'm gonna give my life today, or like a week right now. So for some reason every day I have class exactly at 10:30, and there's this really inane problem that dining hall closes at 9:30 because it used to close at 10:30 in RC4, and you could wake up late just before class and eat breakfast and go to class. The problem is that for some reason now it closes at 9:30, so I wake up every day at 9 and I shower, and then I shower. I bring all my stuff. That means I'm not coming back to my room between classes. I got all the stuff that I need on the day. I eat breakfast. I have about one. So I finish eating at 9:30, and I have 1 hour before my first class. So I always spend that 1 hour revising for a certain thing. Usually, this first class I always have readings to do, so I do the readings 1 hour before the class starts. So it's quite nice. So you can always think about, rather than thinking about finishing everything the night before, you can actually do things in the morning. And I'm a morning person personally, so I like to do things in the morning. So then after that it's a 10:30 class to 12, and at 12 I have lunch. The problem is that because I'm taking classes at NUS, I usually have to rush to class at NUS at 12. In fact, I go 4 times a week. So I usually eat a late lunch. So I have to immediately after class rush to NUS, take a class there, have lunch at NUS, and then come back. Then I typically have about a 2 or 3 hour break before my class at 4:30 to 6. So the worst case I end at 6, and then stuff happens. I do, however, have Wednesday very free, and I only have one class from 10:30 to 12. On Friday I have a lecture at NUS, but I always skip it because I can watch it on the web lecture online, and it takes half an hour to get there. It's a 1 hour lecture, and it takes half an hour to get there. So I get back. So it takes 50% of the time actually lecturing and 50% of the time traveling. I would watch the web lecture, and I do.
Okay, what happens at night?
Okay, so the most important, we'll start from most important event to least important event, is improv. Improv is by far the most important thing. We're very serious about improv now. So every week from 8 to 10, 2 hours, it is our improv session. And we typically have dinner together before improv. This is part of our cohesion, ultimate plan of cohesion world domination, where we meet at 7, actually 6:45, to have dinner together until 8, and then we have 8 to 10. So my entirety of Wednesday night is totally occupied by improv. And everyone leaves at 10, but then us, the presidents, the people in charge, we stay another hour to do a debrief of like how the session went today and how we can improve for next week and plans for next week. And on the on the topic of improv, every Monday we have another 1.5 to 2 hour meeting discussing the Wednesday plan. So a lot of the time is devoted. That's at night, usually from 9 to 10:30 on Mondays. So I spend a lot of time doing improv, and I think it pays off because improv is doing really well. We're very organized, and the time that we put in is well reflected. I think they can tell that we spend a lot of time on it. So on Tuesdays is shoot ball day. So shoot ball day from 8 to 10. I play shoot ball with the club, and we just play shoot ball. So sometimes it's pretty intense because we need to train for a certain competition once in a while, but other times it's pretty chill and relaxed, and it's nice. The Thursdays I typically have nothing, but when the competition for shoot ball comes up, we have trainings twice a week. So then shoot ball also doubles up and gets eaten on Thursday. Gets eaten on Thursdays. Otherwise, I probably go out with my girlfriend. Yeah. And Fridays, it's board game night. Fridays is always board game night. Well, always asterisks, because sometimes if I am too lazy, I'm swamped with work or stressed, I don't have board game night. I am in charge of board game night. I host it, and yeah, that's that. Yeah, it's board game night. It's pretty cool, because if for a nerd like me, I play board games on Friday nights for like 4 hours sometimes from 9 to 11, sometimes from 9 to 1, sometimes it's from 10 to 2. It takes a freaking long time, but I love it.
Okay. What's your suite dynamics like?
Okay, so I'm very privileged to have a really cool suite. So right now, I'm in my room, and right out the door, it's a suite shared by 6 people. So I'll list off the names. I don't know why. John Reed, Matthew Bolden, Kevin Lowe, Dylan Ho, Ong Chi Yao, Amin Firdaus. So we have been street mates since last year. Yep, last year. So it's more than a year now. And John Reed is so the cool thing is that I think we hang out more than the other suites, and we actually use the common lounge to chill out quite often. Like when we were slightly more free. Now at the moment, Matt is very busy, so we've been laying off this for a while. But Kevin, Matt, and I, we video game together. So we play Injustice, Gods Among Us, which is a DC superhero fighting game. John and I take computer science together, so we actually discuss all the time. We are all really good friends. Ami, Shia, and I do football together. Me and Kevin do improv together. So we have lots of overlapping like social circles, and it's just really chill. It feels like a family. The architecture of the room is really nice. So when you come in, you say hi to everyone. Just really homely. You do homework together and all chill out together. It's really nice.
So you used to game regularly with the LOL cats, what's that like?
Alright, so LOL is League of Legends, which is that thing. Yep. And it's a very trending video game right now. It's this semester, things change, and it's been so busy and priorities have changed. So we used to play in our prime 3 times a week: Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. We just gather and play for 2 to 4 hours every 3 times a week. It's just that this semester I think the priorities have changed, and just less time, and people we've decided to focus on other things. So it's sort of dissolved. I mean, it's still I'm still really good friends with the LOL cats, but regarding playing LOL, I've only played 1 game, and this is week 8. So 1/24 is like less than 5%. Yeah. What? Less than 4%. Sorry. Yeah. Sad, but it is what it is.
Okay, so can you tell us about the batteries at Yale-NUS?
Alright, so the batteries are a cool and innovative idea copied from Yale. So it's not cool and innovative, it's sarcastic ish. So what happens is that the batteries are a system from Yale, and what happens to students when they are hungry in the middle of the night? So the answer is we cook for ourselves. It's there's a cafe, a student-run cafe by students for students. So early on in Yale-NUS, I think it's a really good idea. So we decided to sort of import it over, and we did. Early on, Maggie Schumann was the manager of the battery, and one of the issues with the battery is that it was based on goodwill. Because for some reason, the management decided that the students who work for the battery shouldn't be paid. For some reason, Maggie was paid, but it was complicated as ass. I don't know why that was the case. But so I worked for the battery for about a semester, and worked for free, in fact, and just start cooking. You just cook and stuff like that. But it's a big time commitment. It's 3 hours a week, 4 hours including cleaning up, and I eventually decided not to do it because I just decided to focus on other things. And I actually wanted the battery to be an avenue to like hang out and chat with my friends, but it turned out to be that the cook, which is me, just cooks and doesn't really talk to anyone when you're in the battery. If you do it, you could. If someone really wanted to talk to you, you could. But it's actually really hard to cook and talk to someone at the same time, unless he's cooking with you. But then, yeah, this is weird. So.
What was the name of the battery?
So it was called the Shiok Shack. On the name of the battery, Brian Chan suggested Lux et Very Tasty, based on the Yale motto Lux et Veritas, Light and Truth. I thought that was the best name, but eventually none of the batteries got named that. Anyways, now we have actually 3 batteries. One for Saga, one for Elm, and one for Chendana. And man, what are the names? The first one is called the Shiok Shack. The second one,
Doesn't have a name.
What?
Elm doesn't have a name.
Elm doesn't have a name. One doesn't have a name yet. It's pretty terrible. Get their shit together. And the Chendana one is called the Nest. I don't like it. The other name is Chendol because Chendana, but it's also pretty bad. Lux Ad Very Tasty should have been the name. Either ways. That's the buttery.
Okay, so we're gonna end with talking about the future of Yale-NUS. So what were your initial expectations and do you still hold them?
So, sort of, my personal take on my personal expectation for Yale-NUS was that I wanted to come here, I wanted to get a good education, I want to learn about, I want to have a broad-based education, learn about the histories, literature and all the crap, and also have a good education in CS and or engineering, depending on what I decided. I decided CS. And did it deliver? Well, for most of the part, yes. I definitely got the breadth of the education. I really thoroughly enjoyed the Chinese literature history that I did. I think I've got a broader world perspective because of it, and so the part that is sort of lacking is it's a bit hard. You know, science is hard to teach when you have less time to teach it, and like I sort of hinted at in the previous parts of the interview is that, for example, Yale-NUS is a arts, non-science focused school, and the labs that they have, the exchange programs that they have, and the programs that they have are non-science focused. And yeah, so I still have faith that I'm not screwed because of this. And I think I'm pretty confident that Yale-NUS was the right choice. But it's not MIT. Yeah.
Okay. What are your personal hopes for Yale-NUS now and its students?
I don't have such like general like hopes for the school. As in like, yes, I hope the school does well, but on a more personal note, I hope that we all stick together as a pioneering the first class, and even the professors and faculty and staff, and sort of remember the times that what we created together. And it's easier to feel with my fellow peers and students, but when we come back for the 10th anniversary or the 50th anniversary or alumni gatherings, class of 2017, I hope that we remember each other and we stick, we keep, we remain friends. That's my hope.
What do you see yourself doing in the future? And being in the future?
I want to be a game designer. And I hope to, but then I also want to be famous so that I can like impress my friends. And the thing is that being a famous game designer is really hard. Like I think I'd be better. It's easier to be famous if I was like I do a startup or like some like other kind of CS thing. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dylan.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.